I still can't believe what happened that day. It was supposed to be Elena's birthday celebration, the party she'd been planning for months. I thought I'd be right there beside her, celebrating 3 years of us being together. Instead, I spent that evening alone in my apartment, staring at my phone, watching my relationship crumble in real time through Instagram stories. Let me back up a bit. Elena and I started dating in our sophomore year of college. She was this vibrant, spontaneous person who lit up every room she walked into. I was the quieter one, more reserved, the guy who preferred small gatherings over massive parties. But somehow, we worked. Or at least, I thought we did. The problem started about 6 months before her birthday. Elena had gotten a new job at this upscale marketing firm downtown, and suddenly her world expanded in ways mine hadn't. She was meeting new people constantly, attending networking events, going to gallery openings and rooftop bars. I was still finishing up my engineering degree, buried in projects and equations, working part-time at a tech startup that barely paid enough to cover my rent. "You need to be more social, Derek," she'd tell me, scrolling through her phone while we sat together on my couch. "You can't just hide behind your computer all the time." I tried. God knows I tried. I went to her company events, smiled and made small talk with her new colleagues, pretended to care about brand strategies and market positioning. But I could see it in her eyes. I wasn't enough. I wasn't exciting enough, successful enough, charismatic enough. Then Trevor entered the picture. Trevor worked in the same building as Elena, some hotshot sales director for a tech company on the 15th floor. According to Elena, he was just a friend, someone who understood the pressures of corporate life, someone who could make her laugh during stressful workdays. She started mentioning his name more and more. Trevor said this funny thing at lunch. Trevor invited a group of them to this exclusive club opening. Trevor thought she should apply for a position at his company because they'd make a great team. I wasn't blind. I could see what was happening. But every time I brought it up, Elena would accuse me of being paranoid and insecure. "Not every guy who talks to me is trying to steal me away from you," she'd snap. "Maybe if you were more confident in yourself, you wouldn't be so threatened by my friendships." So I swallowed my concerns. I convinced myself I was being the jealous, possessive boyfriend I never wanted to be. I told myself to trust her. The invitation to her birthday party came 3 weeks before the event. It was this elaborate affair she'd planned at some trendy downtown venue, one of those converted warehouse spaces with exposed brick and expensive cocktails. The guest list was enormous, mostly people from her work and her new social circle. I knew maybe 5 people on it. "I'm so excited for you to finally meet everyone properly," she said, kissing my cheek as she showed me the details on her phone. "This is going to be the party of the year." I smiled and nodded, ignoring the knot forming in my stomach. Looking back now, there were so many red flags I chose to ignore. Like how she'd stopped asking about my day, my projects, my hopes for after graduation. How our conversations had become superficial, filled with her stories about work, while my contributions were met with distracted "uh-hahs" and "that's nice." How she'd started criticizing little things about me. My wardrobe wasn't stylish enough. My car was embarrassing. My apartment was too small and cluttered. "You know, Trevor drives a BMW," she'd mentioned casually one evening. "And he's only 28. That's what happens when you work in sales, I guess." I'd gripped my steering wheel tighter, focusing on the road ahead in my 7-year-old Honda Civic that had belonged to my dad. "Good for Trevor. I'm just saying, you could aim higher, Derek. You're smart. You don't have to settle for some startup that might not even exist in a year." "I like my job," I'd said quietly. "I'm learning a lot, and when we get our next round of funding, there's real growth potential." "If you get your next funding round," she'd corrected. Don't you want stability? Security? Don't you want to be able to take me to nice places without worrying about the check? That conversation had stuck with me, festering like a wound that wouldn't heal. Because the truth was, I did worry about money. I worried constantly. My student loans were substantial, my salary was modest, and I was trying to save something, anything, for the future. Meanwhile, Elena was making twice what I made, shopping at boutiques I couldn't afford to walk into, and apparently measuring my worth by the kind of car I drove. 2 days before the party, everything fell apart. I was in the middle of a crucial project presentation, my final assignment before graduation. It was scheduled for the same day as Elena's party, and I'd known about it for weeks. I'd arranged everything perfectly. The presentation was at 2 in the afternoon, and the party didn't start until 8. Plenty of time. Except my presentation went disastrously wrong. Not because of anything I did, but because Professor Williams, notorious for his brutal critiques, decided to tear apart every aspect of my work. What should have been a 30-minute presentation turned into a 3-hour ordeal as he made me defend every single decision, recalculate half my data, and essentially prove I wasn't just making things up. My classmates sat there in uncomfortable silence as Professor Williams eviscerated my methodology. Mr. Peterson, perhaps you can explain why you chose this particular algorithm when clearly a more efficient solution exists. His voice dripped with condescension. Or did you simply not do enough research? I had done the research. Hours and hours of it, but under his withering gaze, my carefully prepared defenses crumbled. I stumbled through explanations, recalculated figures on the board, and felt my confidence drain away with each passing minute. By the time I stumbled out of that conference room, it was nearly 6 o'clock. I was emotionally drained, physically exhausted, and I still had a 2-hour commute ahead of me because my car was in the shop. And I'd had to take a bus to campus that day. I called Elena immediately, my hands shaking as I dialed. "Hey, so the presentation ran really long," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not going to make it by 8, but I should be there by 9:30 at the latest. I'm so sorry." 9:30? Her voice was sharp, cutting through my exhaustion like a knife. "Derek, the party starts at 8. You're supposed to be here when people arrive. You're my boyfriend. People are going to ask where you are." "I know, and I feel terrible, but this wasn't... I can't believe you're doing this to me. This is my birthday, Derek. My birthday party. And you can't even bother to show up on time? Do you know how embarrassing this is for me?" "That's not fair. You know how important this presentation was. Professor Williams just decided to grill me for 3 hours straight. I couldn't just walk out." "There's always an excuse with you, isn't there? Always something more important than me. Always some project or deadline or problem that takes priority. You know what? Don't bother rushing. If you can't be here when the party starts, then maybe you shouldn't come at all." "Elena, come on. Don't be like this. I'll get there as fast as I can. I want to be there. I mean it, Derek. I'm tired of being disappointed by you. I'm tired of making excuses for why my boyfriend can't participate in my life. Maybe we both need to think about whether this is really working, whether you're really committed to this relationship or if you're just going through the motions." The line went dead. I stood there on the sidewalk outside the engineering building, phone pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. Students rushed past me, heading to their Friday evening plans, laughing and chatting, completely oblivious to the fact that my world was tilting sideways. She couldn't mean it. She was just upset, stressed about the party. I'd get there, we'd talk, everything would be fine. We'd been together for 3 years. You don't throw away 3 years over one late arrival. I managed to catch an earlier bus, made it back to my apartment in record time, showered and changed into the outfit I'd carefully chosen weeks ago. A dark button-down shirt and slacks that Elena had said made me look almost handsome. I'd even gotten a haircut specifically for this party, spent money I couldn't really afford on a new watch because Elena had mentioned mine looked cheap. By 8:45, I was in a rideshare, heading downtown to the venue. I rehearsed what I'd say. To her, how I'd apologize for being late, how I'd make it up to her. Maybe we could go for a late dinner after the party, just the two of us. Maybe I could finally tell her about the promotion I was hoping for at work, how things might be looking up financially. That's when the Instagram stories started appearing. The first one was innocent enough. A photo of the venue, all decorated with string lights and Elena's favorite flowers. The second showed her with a group of girlfriends, everyone dressed to kill, champagne glasses raised. I smiled, relieved. The party was in full swing. I'd be there in 30 minutes. It would be fine. Then I saw the third story. Elena was in the center of the frame, laughing at something off camera, her head thrown back in that uninhibited way she had when she was truly happy. And right beside her, his arm casually draped around her shoulders in a way that was far too intimate, far too comfortable, was Trevor. He was looking at her with this expression, possessive, proud, like she belonged to him. The caption said something about favorite people and perfect nights. My stomach dropped. I kept refreshing the page for the next 20 minutes, watching story after story appear. Elena and Trevor at the bar, his hand on the small of her back as he leaned in to order drinks. Elena and Trevor on the makeshift dance floor, swaying together to slow music, their bodies pressed close. Elena opening presents. Trevor standing so close behind her, he might as well have been part of her shadow, his chin almost resting on her shoulder as he watched her unwrap gift after gift. In every photo, every video, they looked like a couple. He looked like the boyfriend. He looked like the person who belonged there. And me? I wasn't mentioned once. It was as if I didn't exist. As if 3 years of my life, 3 years of our shared history, had been completely erased. When I finally arrived at the venue at 9:20, I stood outside for a full 10 minutes, watching through the tall windows. The space was even more beautiful than the photos had suggested. Twinkling lights, elegant decorations, well-dressed people mingling and laughing. I could see Elena in there, radiant in a red dress I'd never seen before, surrounded by people who looked like they belonged in a lifestyle magazine. Trevor was still at her side, making her laugh, touching her arm, leaning in to whisper things in her ear that made her smile. She looked happy, really happy. Happier than I'd seen her in months. And I realized something in that moment, standing outside in the cool night air while my girlfriend celebrated without me. I couldn't go in there. I couldn't walk into that room and be the awkward, underdressed boyfriend who showed up late to his own girlfriend's party, only to find he'd already been replaced. I couldn't interrupt whatever was happening between Elena and Trevor. I couldn't face the pity or confusion in her friends' eyes when they realized I existed. So I didn't. I turned around, walked back to the street, and took a rideshare home. During the entire ride, I stared out the window at the city lights blurring past, feeling numb. The driver tried to make small talk, asking if I'd had a good evening, but I couldn't form words. I just nodded and pretended to check my phone. The messages started around 11. "Where are you?" Then asking if people were wondering about me, then calling me immature. Finally telling me I was embarrassing her, that everyone thought it was weird her boyfriend wasn't there. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? That I'd been there? That I'd seen everything? that I'd watched her celebrate the most important day of her year with another man like I'd never even been part of her life? By midnight, my phone was flooded with notifications. Mutual friends asking if I was okay, if Elena and I had broken up, what was going on. Screenshots of Elena's stories that people assumed I hadn't seen. One message from my buddy Ryan that just said he needed to talk to me. I turned off my phone and tried to sleep. I didn't succeed. The next morning, Elena showed up at my apartment. She looked tired, her makeup smudged, still wearing the red dress under a leather jacket someone had probably lent her. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her hair was messier than Elena ever allowed it to be in public. "You didn't come," she said, standing in my doorway. "You told me not to. You knew I didn't mean it. You knew I wanted you there. Did you?" I stepped aside to let her in, then closed the door behind her. "Because from what I saw online, you had a pretty great time without me." She had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Derek, Trevor looked good in all those photos. Very attentive. Very boyfriend-like. He's just a friend. I've told you that 1,000 times. Friends don't look at each other the way you two do. Friends don't spend an entire party attached at the hip." I pulled out my phone and showed her some of the screenshots I'd saved. "Friends don't act like this when your actual boyfriend is supposed to be there." Elena's face flushed red, anger replacing discomfort. "You're twisting things. You're making this into something it's not because you're jealous and insecure. Trevor was just being supportive because you weren't there. Someone had to step up and make sure I wasn't alone on my birthday." "Alone? You had 50 people there, but you chose to spend it with him." "Because you weren't there." Her voice rose, sharp and accusatory. "I needed someone, Derek. I needed support and attention and someone who actually wanted to be there with me. Trevor showed up. Trevor made an effort. Trevor actually cares about making me happy." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and damning. "So that's what this is really about," I said slowly. "Trevor makes you happy in ways I don't. Trevor gives you the attention you need. Trevor is everything I'm not." "I didn't say that. You didn't have to. It's been obvious for months, Elena. You've been pulling away, comparing me to him, finding fault with everything I do. I just didn't want to see it." We fought for another hour. She cried. I stayed cold, and we went in circles. She accused me of abandoning her on her birthday. I reminded her of all the times she'd made me feel small. She said I was paranoid. I showed her more screenshots, more evidence. She said I was reading too much into innocent interactions. I asked her point blank if she had feelings for Trevor. She hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough, before saying no. Eventually she left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. She didn't officially break up with me, but we both knew it was over. The texts continued for a few days. Her apologizing, then getting angry when I didn't respond the way she wanted, then apologizing again. Her friends messaging me, taking her side, telling me I'd overreacted. One of her co-workers even called me, saying I needed to forgive Elena because she'd made one mistake. The irony wasn't lost on me. By the end of that week, Elena and Trevor were officially together. She didn't announce it explicitly, but the Instagram posts told the story clearly enough. Dinner dates at restaurants I'd never been able to afford. Coffee shop selfies with New Beginnings vibes. Photos of them at some beach resort that looked like it cost more than my monthly rent. 3 years. Gone in less than a week. As if I'd been nothing more than a placeholder, keeping her company until someone better came along. I threw myself into finishing my degree, determined to prove, to myself more than anyone, that I was worth something. I deleted Instagram from my phone entirely. I went to the gym, started running every morning, picked up my guitar again and relearned songs I'd forgotten. I spent time with Ryan and my other friends who'd stuck by me through the breakup, guys who didn't judge me for being hurt, who let me vent and rage and eventually heal. Ryan was particularly helpful. He'd never liked Elena much, though he'd been polite for my sake. "She always acted like she was doing you a favor by being with you," he told me one night over pizza. "Like you should be grateful she'd lowered herself to date an engineering student instead of some corporate hotshot. You're better off, man. Trust me." Slowly, painfully, I started to feel like myself again. The Derek who'd existed before Elena, before I'd molded myself into whatever she wanted me to be. I started wearing clothes I actually liked instead of what she'd approved. I bought video games she'd called childish and played them for hours without guilt. I hung out with friends she'd found boring. I remembered what it felt like to make decisions based on what I wanted, rather than what would make her happy. Then I met Olivia. It was 2 months after the breakup. I'd started working, full-time at the tech startup, which had gotten a massive investment and was suddenly a real company with actual opportunities. They'd hired a whole new team, including Olivia, who joined as a UX designer. She was different from Elena in every way that mattered. Where Elena was all sharp edges and ambition, Olivia was soft and grounded. She had this quiet confidence, a way of moving through the world without needing to prove anything to anyone. She wore minimal makeup, dressed in comfortable clothes that suited her rather than chasing trends, and had this genuine laugh that made everyone around her smile. Olivia was interested in deep conversations, rather than surface-level networking. She loved hiking and cooking and terrible sci-fi movies with questionable special effects. She read fantasy novels and listened to indie music and had strong opinions about the Oxford comma. She laughed at my jokes, the nerdy ones that Elena always said were too dorky, and made equally nerdy jokes back. We started as friends. Coffee breaks in the office kitchen, where we'd discuss everything from quantum computing to the best pizza toppings. Lunch conversations about our favorite books, our childhood dreams, our fears about the future. A group happy hour that turned into just the two of us talking until the bar closed. Neither of us wanting the conversation to end. I wasn't looking for anything. I was still healing, still processing everything that had happened with Elena. Still learning to trust again, to believe that someone could want me for who I actually was, rather than who they wanted me to become. But Olivia was patient. She never pushed, never demanded more than I could give. She just existed in my life, steady and warm, until one day I realized I was falling for her. Our first date was nothing fancy, a hole-in-the-wall Thai restaurant that Ryan had recommended, followed by a walk along the riverfront as the sun set. No pretense, no performance, no pressure to be anyone other than ourselves. We talked about our families, our dreams, our favorite memories. She told me about growing up with 3 siblings on a small farm upstate, about learning to code because she wanted to design better tools for her dad's business. I told her about my love for engineering, about the satisfaction of solving complex problems, about my hope to someday work on renewable energy projects. At the end of the night, she kissed me softly under a streetlight and said, "I really like you, Derek, just so you know." I grinned the entire drive home. We took things slow. After Elena, I needed slow. I needed to rebuild my ability to trust, to believe that this person wouldn't suddenly decide I wasn't enough. Olivia understood that without me having to explain. She met my friends, I met hers. We spent weekends exploring the city, trying new restaurants, having marathon gaming sessions at my apartment, where she absolutely destroyed me at Mario Kart. "I thought you said you didn't play video games much," I complained after she won for the 5th time in a row. "I said I didn't play them much. I never said I wasn't good at them. There's a difference." "That's deceptive. You hustled me." "You want a rematch?" "Absolutely not. My ego can't take it." It was easy in a way my relationship with Elena never had been. There was no second guessing, no walking on eggshells, No anxiety about whether I was being interesting enough, or successful enough, or ambitious enough. Olivia liked me. The actual me. The quiet engineer who preferred small gatherings and deep conversations, who wore comfortable jeans instead of designer labels, who drove a used Honda and was proud of the money he saved. 3 months in, Olivia and I took a trip to visit her family upstate. They lived on this beautiful property with a lake and hiking trails, the kind of place that looked like it belonged in a postcard. Her parents were warm and welcoming, treating me like I'd always been part of the family. Her mom made this incredible homemade lasagna and insisted I take leftovers home. Her dad showed me around his workshop, where he built custom furniture, and we spent an afternoon discussing the engineering behind different joint techniques. Her younger sister, Emma, who was 15 and full of energy, immediately decided I was her new favorite person and insisted I help her build a treehouse in the backyard. We spent an entire day measuring, cutting wood, and hammering planks while Olivia documented the process with photos, laughing at our terrible carpentry skills. "You're an engineer," Emma said, examining our crooked frame with skepticism. "Isn't this supposed to be your thing?" "I'm a software engineer," I defended. "Very different skill set." "Sounds like an excuse to me. You sound like your sister." "Good. Someone needs to keep you humble." On our last evening there, Olivia and I went for a sunset walk around the lake. The light was golden, reflecting off the water in shimmering patterns that looked almost unreal. The air smelled like pine and fresh water, and there was this perfect quiet, broken only by birds and the gentle lap of waves against the shore. She was wearing this simple sundress, her hair pulled back, no makeup, just completely herself. She looked beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with styling or effort, just natural, unfiltered beauty. "Take a picture with me," she said, pulling out her phone. "I want to remember this." We posed by the lake, the sunset behind us casting everything in warm gold. She leaned into me while I wrapped my arm around her waist, both of us smiling not for the camera but because we were happy. She took the photo, checked it, and smiled. "Perfect. We look happy." "We are," I replied, kissing the top of her head. "Yeah, we really are." Later that night, after her family had gone to bed, Olivia and I sat on the dock with our feet in the water, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about her dreams of starting her own design studio someday. I told her about my hopes of working on sustainable energy projects, of maybe doing something that actually mattered in the world. We talked about the future, not in the anxious, planning way Elena and I had, where every conversation felt like a test I might fail, but in this easy, wondering way, where anything felt possible. At some point, she posted the sunset photo to her Instagram. She captioned it something simple about finding peace. I didn't think much of it at the time. Olivia wasn't big on social media. She posted maybe once a month, usually nature photos or pictures of her design work. But she was proud of us, of what we were building together, and I loved that about her. I loved that she didn't hide me or our relationship, that she celebrated it openly without any hesitation or shame. The next morning, my phone exploded. Messages from people I hadn't heard from in months. Notifications flooding in faster than I could read them. At first, I thought something had gone wrong, that someone had been in an accident, or there was some emergency. Then I saw the message from Ryan. Dude, Elena is losing it. Check your messages." I opened my texts with a sense of dread, my stomach already sinking. Elena had sent me a dozen messages overnight. I don't know how she'd found Olivia's post. Maybe through mutual followers, maybe one of her friends had shown her, but the result was the same. She'd seen the photo of Olivia and me at the lake, looking happy together, and apparently it had broken something in her. The messages started casual enough, then got progressively worse. Asking if I was seeing someone, making comments about Olivia's appearance, accusing me of having already moved on while we were together, bringing up our 3 years like I owed her something, mentioning that she and Trevor had broken up, suggesting we could try again, asking why I'd changed, if I'd lost weight, if I was trying to make her jealous. She sent more throughout the morning. Some apologetic, some angry, some desperate, telling me she'd made a mistake, that Trevor had meant nothing, that we could fix things, that she deserved an answer after 3 years together. I stared at my phone in disbelief. This was the same person who'd told me not to come to her party. The same person who'd paraded Trevor around while we were still technically together. The same person who'd moved on with him before our relationship was even cold, who'd posted photos from tropical beaches while I was still trying to figure out how to breathe through the pain. And now she was falling apart because I'd found someone who actually made me happy? I showed the messages to Olivia over breakfast. She read through them calmly, her expression never changing, then handed my phone back. "Do you want to respond?" she asked, her voice neutral. "No, there's nothing to say." "Are you sure? If you need to talk to her for closure, I'd understand." I reached across the table and took her hand, squeezing gently. "I don't need closure from Elena. I've got everything I need right here." She smiled, that warm smile that had made me fall for her in the first place. "Okay then." But Elena wasn't done. Over the next few days, the messages continued, each round becoming more desperate. She created new accounts when I blocked her old one, sending messages through different platforms. She sent messages through mutual friends, asking them to tell me she wanted to talk, that she needed to explain, that things with Trevor had been a mistake. She even showed up at my office once. I was in a meeting when our receptionist knocked on the conference room door, looking uncomfortable. "Derek, there's someone here asking for you. She says it's urgent." I excused myself and stepped into the lobby to find Elena standing there, looking smaller somehow. Vulnerable. Her carefully curated image had cracks in it. Her outfit was simpler than usual, her makeup lighter, her confidence nowhere to be seen. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't. Please, 5 minutes." "The answer is no, Elena. I've moved on. You need to do the same." "But I love you. I made a mistake. Trevor wasn't what I thought. We fought constantly. He was controlling and jealous and nothing like you. I miss you. I miss us." "You don't miss me. You miss having someone who made you feel good about yourself. You miss having a backup plan. But I'm not that person anymore." I asked the receptionist to help her leave. Elena started crying, but I just walked back to my meeting. I felt relieved more than anything. The worst part was watching her social media presence fall apart over the following weeks. Through mutual friends' stories, I caught glimpses. She'd deleted all the photos with Trevor. She posted vague quotes about lost love and making mistakes and not appreciating what you had. She shared articles about couples reuniting, about forgiveness and second chances. Her friends started reaching out too, running some kind of campaign to get me to talk to her. They told me I'd overreacted, that I was being cruel for moving on, that Elena was struggling and needed closure, that she'd even quit her job because everything reminded her of her mistakes. The hypocrisy was incredible. Where had these friends been when she was emotionally cheating? When she'd replaced me at her party? When she'd started dating Trevor immediately after our breakup? Now suddenly I was supposed to put my happiness on hold because Elena regretted her choices? Ryan put it best one night when we were out for drinks. "So she emotionally cheated on you for months, replaced you at her own birthday party, immediately started dating the guy she swore was just a friend, and now she's mad because you found someone who treats you well. That's insane, man. You dodged a missile." "It's not about me. It never was. It's about her ego. She thought I'd always be there, waiting around while she explored other options. Seeing me actually happy without her, that's what she can't handle. He wasn't wrong. The final straw came about 2 weeks after Olivia's post. Elena called me late one night from a number I didn't recognize. I answered half asleep, thinking it might be work. "Derek? Please don't hang up." Her voice was thick with tears, words slurring slightly. Had she been drinking? "Elena, it's late. What do you want?" "I miss you. I made a terrible mistake. The worst mistake of my life. Trevor was nothing. He meant nothing. I was confused and stupid, and I threw away the best thing in my life." "Elena, please just listen. I know I hurt you. I know I messed everything up. But we had 3 years together. 3 years. That has to mean something. We can work through this. We can go to counseling, take it slow, rebuild what we had. I'll do anything. Just give me another chance." "Elena, stop. Don't you miss me? Don't you miss what we had? All those memories, all those plans. Remember when we talked about moving in together? About getting a dog? We had a future, Derek. We had something real." I thought about it honestly for the first time since the breakup. Did I miss her? Did I miss the constant anxiety about whether I was good enough? The feeling of being sidelined in my own relationship? The endless comparisons to her new, exciting life while I stayed the same boring guy? The way she'd made me feel small, like I needed to change everything about myself to deserve her? No, I don't. Silence on the other end, broken only by her ragged breathing. "I miss the person I thought you were. I miss the relationship I thought we had. But the reality? The actual Elena? The actual us? No. I don't miss any of it. I don't miss feeling like I'm never enough. I don't miss wondering if you're comparing me to Trevor or whoever else. I don't miss the person I became when I was with you. Smaller, quieter, always apologizing for not being exciting enough. That's not fair. You replaced me before you even broke up with me. You made me feel like I was never enough, like I needed to change everything about myself to deserve you. You criticized my job, my car, my apartment, my clothes, my friends, and the moment I wasn't convenient, the moment I couldn't make it to your party on time because of something important to my future, you tossed me aside. Now you're upset because I'm happy without you, because I found someone who appreciates who I am instead of who she wishes I'd be. It's not like that. I was just trying to help you improve. I didn't need to improve, Elena. I just needed to be accepted, and that's what you could never do. Derek, please, I love you. I really do. I didn't realize it until I lost you. Trevor was just a fantasy, an idea of what I thought I wanted. But it wasn't real. You were real. We were real. What we had was good, and I ruined it. And I'm so sorry. Please, just give me one more chance to prove I can be better. I'm happy, Elena. Actually happy. And I'm with someone who makes me feel valued every single day. Someone who doesn't need me to change. Someone who celebrates who I am instead of cataloging all the ways I fall short. I'm not giving that up to go back to feeling inadequate. I'm done. You're making a mistake. She doesn't know you like I do. She'll disappoint you eventually. And there it is. Even now, when you're supposedly apologizing, you can't help but take shots at me. You can't help but remind me that I disappointed you. That's exactly why this will never work. Because in your mind, you're the victim here. You can't see that you destroyed something good because you were too busy looking for something better. I hope you find happiness eventually, but not with me. Never with me again. Goodbye, Elena. I hung up before she could respond. Then I blocked the number, deleted the voicemail notification, and turned off my phone. My hands were shaking, adrenaline coursing through my system. But I also felt lighter somehow. Like I'd finally closed a chapter that had been dragging on for too long. When I crawled back into bed, Olivia stirred beside me. We'd been staying at each other's places most nights by then, and I was grateful for her presence. "Everything okay?" she murmured sleepily, reaching for my hand. "Yeah, everything's good." And I meant it. The months that followed were some of the best of my life. The company I worked for grew exponentially, and my work on our new platform caught the attention of the executives. I got promoted to lead engineer with a substantial raise, enough that I could finally start thinking about the future without constant anxiety about money. I paid off a chunk of my student loans, bought a new car to replace my aging Civic, and started actually saving. Olivia and I moved in together, finding a great apartment with huge windows that flooded the space with natural light and enough room for both our stuff. We spent weekends making it ours, painting the walls, assembling furniture, debating which of her plants could go where, and whether we really needed 3 different gaming consoles. We adopted a rescue dog, a golden retriever mix named Biscuit, who had been returned to the shelter 3 times for being too energetic. He became the center of our world, accompanying us on hikes, sprawling across our laps during movie nights, and providing endless entertainment with his sock-stealing habit. I heard through the grapevine that Elena struggled for a while after our final conversation. According to Ryan, who heard from someone else, she'd had a rough time. She quit her job, burned bridges with several work friends, and had a series of bad dates. Eventually, she moved to a different city for a fresh start. I hoped she found what she was looking for. Not because I cared about her romantically, not because I wished we could be friends, but because carrying that much bitterness seemed exhausting. Everyone deserved peace, even people who'd hurt me. One evening, about 6 months after that midnight phone call, Olivia and I were cooking dinner together in our apartment. Music played from the speaker, some indie band she'd introduced me to, and Biscuit was stationed at our feet, begging for scraps. We were making homemade pizza and debating toppings. "You're wrong," I said, spreading sauce across the dough. "Pineapple on pizza is an abomination." "You're just not sophisticated enough to appreciate it," she shot back, stealing a piece of mozzarella. "Sophisticated? You put gummy bears in your popcorn." "Which is delicious. Don't knock it until you've tried it." "I have tried it. It was a crime against snack foods." "You have no sense of adventure." I grabbed her around the waist and kissed her. "You're ridiculous." "Yeah, but you like it." "I really do." Later, as we ate our pizza, supreme on one half, Hawaiian on the other, because compromise, Olivia looked at me thoughtfully. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you ever think about her? About Elena?" I considered the question carefully. Sometimes, not in a "I wish things were different" way, more like remembering an old chapter that taught me a lot, like looking back at old photos and barely recognizing who you used to be. "What did it teach you?" That I deserve someone who chooses me, not someone who keeps me around until something better comes along, or who treats me like a project that needs fixing. That being comfortable being myself is better than trying to be impressive for someone else. That the right relationship shouldn't feel like constant work to prove my worth. I reached across the table and took her hand. It taught me what I actually want in a partner. Someone who sees me clearly and likes what they see. Someone who celebrates my successes instead of feeling threatened by them. Someone who makes me feel like I'm enough exactly as I am. Olivia squeezed my hand. "For what it's worth, I think you're pretty impressive exactly as you are." "Even with my terrible taste in pizza?" "Especially with your terrible taste in pizza. It gives me something to lovingly mock you about." That night, as we settled onto the couch with Biscuit sprawled between us, watching terrible sci-fi movies and making fun of the bad special effects, I thought about that photo by the lake. The one that had somehow shattered Elena's illusion that I'd be waiting forever, that I'd never move on, that she could come back whenever she was ready. That photo represented everything I'd gained since leaving her behind. Peace. Actual happiness. Self-respect. A relationship built on mutual respect and real affection rather than insecurity and constant comparison. A partner who loved me for being the nerdy, quiet engineer who preferred home-cooked meals over fancy restaurants. Elena had replaced me at her party with Trevor, thinking and I was interchangeable, that my presence didn't matter. She'd learned the hard way that people aren't replaceable, that treating someone as an accessory rather than an essential part of your life has consequences. The irony was that I hadn't posted that photo to hurt her. I hadn't even thought about her when Olivia and I were standing by that lake, wrapped up in our own happiness. That's what had really shattered her, the realization that I'd moved on so completely that she wasn't even a factor in my new life. I wasn't performing happiness to prove a point. I was just happy. I'd spent 3 years trying to be enough for Elena. It turned out I'd always been enough. She just hadn't been the right person to see it. "Hey," Olivia said, pausing the movie. "Where'd you go just now?" "Nowhere important. Just thinking about how lucky I am." "Sap," she teased, smiling. "Yeah, probably. But you're my sap." And that was the truth of it. I wasn't Elena's Derek anymore, the guy who bent himself into uncomfortable shapes trying to fit into her life. I was just Derek, exactly as I'd always been, finally with someone who appreciated that. That photo might have shattered Elena's illusions, but it had shown me my own truth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just living well, being happy, and realizing that the person who left you behind did you a favor. My phone buzzed. Another photo Olivia had posted. This one of the 3 of us sprawled on the couch. Biscuit's head was in my lap. My arm was around Olivia, and we were both laughing. She'd captioned it something about her little family. "I liked it," commented with a heart, and then put my phone away. Whatever Elena's reaction might be, I'd never know. I'd stopped checking. I'd stopped caring. That chapter was closed. I had everything I needed right here. A woman who loved me without conditions, a dog who thought I hung the moon, a career that challenged me, friends who supported me, an apartment filled with laughter and warmth and the comfortable chaos of building a life together. And honestly, that was the happiest ending I could have asked for. Not because Elena had suffered or regretted her choices, but because I'd found something better. Not a better person, necessarily, but a better fit, a better match, a better love. One that didn't require me to diminish myself to make room for someone else's ego. One that celebrated who I was, instead of cataloging who I wasn't. That photo by the lake hadn't just shattered Elena's illusions. It had captured the exact moment I realized I was truly free. Free from the weight of her expectations, free from the anxiety of never being enough, free to be completely, authentically myself. And that freedom, that peace, that was worth everything.